muted. All right, looks like the recording has started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Fairfax County Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals hearing. Today is Wednesday, March 10, 2021. My name is Richard Grace. I'm the liaison to this board and your moderator today. I will go over a few guidelines before the hearing before I turn this over to our chairman, Mr. Dave Conover. First, this hearing is being recorded and the recording will be made available to all on our website after the hearing. Please identify yourself by first and last name each time you speak. This is important to maintain an accurate audio recording of the hearing. Should you have any difficulty during the hearing, please feel free to email me at richard.grace, that's RICHARD.GRACE at fairfaxcounty.gov, and Fairfax County is one word. Or you can call me at 571-286-8283. Again, that's 571-286-8283, and I will attempt to assist you with your difficulties. Are there any questions before we begin the hearing? Hearing none, I will now turn this over to the chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals, Mr. Conover. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Richard. I'll thank you and other staff of Land Development Services for your efforts in setting up this meeting and get us prepared. For the record, it's 10:05 a.m. on Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. And I'd like to open the meeting of the March meeting of the Fairfax County Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals, at which we'll conduct a hearing on an appeal scheduled to be heard at this meeting. To conduct this meeting and hearing wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, the board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record to address appeals that have been filed with the building, property maintenance, or fire official in a timely manner. Conducting this hearing wholly electronically will be a bit challenging, so I ask you in advance for your patience. Because each of the member of the board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we have to verify that a quorum of members is participating, that each member's voice is clear, audible, and an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and each board member participating in this meeting to state their name and the location from which they're participating. In doing that, I'd ask that each board member pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we'll vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. So I'm just going to go down the list. Amado Fernandez, are you here and where are you? Amado, I see maybe you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is Chantilly, Virginia. Thank you.
Okay. George Page.
Yeah, I'm here. From my home in Oak Hill, Virginia.
Okay. Rob Fisher.
Yes, sir. I'm here in my office in Vienna, Virginia.
Thank you. Mike Grinnell.
Here in my office in Springfield, Virginia.
Darren Shoemate.
Darren Shoemate is here. I'm calling in from Alexandria, Virginia in Mason District.
Okay. And I'm Dave Conover. I'm calling in from my home in Great Falls. So I'm also going to ask, well, first, I'm going to pass the role of chairman to Darren Shoemate, the vice chairman, so I can I may be heard to make an appropriate motion. I would move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each of the other members of the board. I'd ask for a second, and then all those in favor to say aye. Is there a second to the motion?
Mike Grinnell, second.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures. The fact that we're meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access, including all appellants and appellees on our agenda this meeting. And before I pass the role of chairman to Darren again to make another motion, I'd like the others on the call to identify themselves. First, I'll start with Richard Grace. Are there any other members of the county government that are on the call? Please identify yourselves.
Good morning, Paul Emmerich, County Attorney's Office.
Thanks, Paul.
Melissa Smar, Land Development Services.
Thank you, Melissa.
Scott Haggerty, Fairfax State Enforcement, Land Development Services.
Thank you, Scott. Carla, I know you're here, right?
Yes, this is Carla Guerra. I'm at home at Fairfax City.
Okay. Anyone else from the county? Okay. And for the appellant, I see Joseph Young. You're here, correct?
Yes, I'm here, Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the call?
Yes, this is Pamela Brumfield, Fairfax Station, Virginia.
Okay. And you are with?
Well, I'm the complainant, I guess.
Oh, okay. It's your deck.
It's my deck, correct.
Okay.
And I think my husband is on as well.
Okay. Thank you, Pamela. Anybody else? Okay, I'll continue. Thanks for your patience. So Darren, I'm going to pass the role of chairman on to you, and I'm going to make a motion. I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for the board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of the board and the physical presence of the public and appellants and appellees, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated audio-video conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-571-429-5982 and entering access code 380-336-229#. I ask for a second to the motion, and then we'll vote. Is there a second?
Second, Amato Fernandez.
Okay. Any board members? I'll just assume everybody's in agreement with the motion. Is there any board member that is not, NOT, not in agreement with that motion? Okay, the motion's passed. It's next required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to conduct operations in the discharge of the board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. At this point, Darren, I'd ask you to chair again. And I move that the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. Is there a second to this motion?
Second, Mike Grinnell.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Is there any board member that is not, NOT, not in favor of the motion? Okay, the motion has passed. While I get my papers in order. Okay. It's usually a lot easier, obviously, when we're meeting in person. We have one appeal to hear today. I would note that we have copies of all correspondence and supporting documentation on that appeal. I would ask that if there are other members of the public in attendance that have not made themselves known, to do so now. So we've heard from county staff, Joseph Young and Pamela and her husband, as well as the board members. Is there anybody else that is on the call today?
Mr. Chairman, Richard Grace here. My apologies. I lost my connection, but I'm back now. This is Richard Grace.
Okay.
Fairfax County Building Code Services.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Okay. For the appeal, both the appellant and the appellee can appeal a decision of the board to the State Technical Review Board. The application for appeal must be submitted to the State Technical Review Board within 21 days following the receipt of the board's decision on the appeal. Please note that a majority vote of the board is needed to overturn the building official's ruling. A tie vote goes in favor of the board. As chairman, however, I will only vote to break a tie. So the order of the meeting with respect to the appeal we will hear today is as follows. The appellant, Mr. Young, I'll ask you to make no more than a 2-minute summary of the basis for your appeal and the county position. So this is a brief opening statement. The county, I'll ask who's representing the county to make a brief 2-minute or less summary of the basis for their position. This will help frame where both sides of this issue are coming from. And then as chair, I'll try and frame the issue before the board and for everybody else on the call. Then we'll have the appellant speak and present their case, and the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of them at that time. So differing from the opening statement, we'll say this will be where the appellant would go into detail of their appeal and technical issues, and the board will then ask them questions if they have any. The county will then speak and present its case to the board. And we, the board, will have an opportunity to ask questions of them at that time. Then the appellant can provide additional information in response to prior testimony, followed by the county staff if they choose to provide additional information. I might call this rebuttal, if you will. It's your second chance to respond to something that previously has come out during the hearing. If either party, the appellant or appellee, has questions for the other party at that time, they can also direct them through the chair to the other party. After each time the appellant or county speaks, I'll provide the board members the opportunity to ask questions and the appellant or the county as appropriate time to respond. Having completed opening summaries, 2 rounds of testimony and questions, I'll close the public hearing phase of the meeting, and I'll ask for a motion from the board on the appeal to either approve or not approve the appeal, a second, and we will discuss it and vote on it. With a motion before the board on the appeal, if any new information comes up during that discussion that has not come out in the public hearing, I will reopen the public hearing on that one question or issue that has come up to allow the appellant or the appellee to respond. So I'd ask that when you're not speaking, you put your phone on mute. And as county staff has already indicated, if there's background noise or other sound that's disrupting the meeting, what we'll do is have the county staff mute everybody, and then you'll have to dial *6 to get unmuted. When you'd like to speak, please indicate by saying request to speak and your name, and allow me to recognize you. That will generally happen only when the board is asking questions. So I'd invite those on the call participating as or on behalf of the appellant to introduce themselves and their affiliation and make your opening statement. And Mr. Young, I'll turn it over to you for, opening statement and anything the homeowners would like to add.
Okay, this is Joe Young. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In briefly, I guess I want to say that I was contacted by Melissa Smar in Fairfax County, and they told me that some work I had done had 6 violations, and I just don't agree with all the violations. One of them had to do with flashing. One of them had to do with inspections, or 2 of them had to do with inspections. And it seems like 3 of them also pertain to the same thing. And just in general, I didn't agree with what I was told I needed to do and how it needed to be done. And that's briefly the reason for the appeal.
Okay, thank you. Richard, who will be speaking for the county?
Mr. Chairman, this is Paul Emmerich. I'll make an opening statement.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Paul Emmerich. I'm a senior assistant county attorney, and I'm here on behalf of the post-occupancy branch of Land Development Services. I believe this appeal is fairly straightforward. You'll hear testimony this morning from Scott Haggerty, the inspector and technical assistant to the building official. Mr. Haggerty inspected the deck work at 9350 Braymore Circle. Mr. Haggerty will explain the nature of the code violations, the requirement for a permit and inspections, and the specific code violations. Finally, while Mr. Young asserts that he did not build the original deck and therefore should not be responsible for the existing failure to flash the connection to the house, it's important to note that as a licensed contractor, he cannot ignore and conceal an existing and ongoing code violation. Thank you. You may want to, Ms. Brumfield, who I understand is attending, may want to be heard as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And yes, Ms. Brumfield, I probably should have asked if you or your husband wanted to say anything when Mr. Young was making his opening or part of his opening remarks. Is there anything in summary you'd like to say at this point before we go into more detailed testimony?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, all we wanted was our deck renovated, and we put our trust in contractors when we hire them to do the job. We did ask if Mr. Young was licensed, and he most certainly did send us a copy of his license. And he came out to see the deck on more than one occasion. Before he began doing the work, he came out at least twice to see the actual deck. We had him walk underneath the deck, walk on top of the deck, check it all out. And the conversation was, okay, fix the deck, renovate the deck, and do whatever you need to do to renovate this deck. I remember specifically asking him, is it safe? Do you need to do anything? Do you need to add anything? And we even had a conversation. There's a bench on top of the deck where he was going to put Trex, and he told me that due to the substructure, and I actually have the email on that he would actually have to add extra 2x4s to that. So there was definitely the conversation and understanding of we wanted the deck to be done correctly and safely, and making sure that it was up to standards and what it needed to be. We're just regular homeowners. We don't know anything about, I don't know, 2x4s or flash. We don't know any of that. That's why we hire a licensed professional. And so that was the expectation. And I know for myself, the expectation, and we said we want it to be done correctly and to be done safely. And he had ample time, and as I said, he looked at it, he walked around. I said, what else do you need? Do you need to make any adjustments? Is everything good with it? And so that's, we went with that, good faith. we really, honestly, we never thought we'd get to this point here today. We never intend to cause problems for anyone. We never thought we'd get to this point here today, to be quite honest with you. But we entered into it trusting a contractor, and that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you. So before I turn it back over to the appellant, Mr. Young, and certainly anybody else, Pamela, you'll have more opportunity in a moment to get into more of the detail. But as I've read the appeal and based on the opening statements, board members, I think the issues before us are, first, is a permit required, and are the subsequent inspections, submission of plans, a review of those plans, approval of the plans, inspections, is that required? I think that was one issue. And the second one is, of course, well, has the work that has been already accomplished or been performed on the deck, does it in fact meet the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code? I think those are the two issues before us, and I'm sure it will come out in the following remarks by the appellant or the appellee as to whether or not a permit has been applied for and secured. We'll get the information on that, and then the meat of it will be whether the construction actually meets the code. So with framing that summary, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Young for additional detail on this, and then I'll have the board ask any questions they have of you or the homeowner.
Okay, turned it over to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I might be able to speed this up a little bit, but I don't disagree with the code violations as far as the spanning of the joist, the spanning of the stringers for the stairs, the top rail, not so much. I kind of disagree with that, but I do understand the code. And I do understand that an inspection, I do understand now that an inspection is needed. I didn't know it at the time we did this. And also, I've been at the property many times. It was a 2-month process getting through to what they wanted done. The original information I sent them was for probably 3 or 4 different variations, which included wood. My biggest concern, I guess, about what I'm being asked from the county is, yes, I understand that a code permit was needed, and we're doing a permit post the work that was done, but they're telling me, as opposed to the homeowner, I have to pull the permit, and it just seemed that I just needed a second opinion of what I was being told by the county itself. They're also telling me that I need to make all the repairs, as in what is necessary between a wooden deck and a composite deck, out of my pocket. And if that's what you're agreeing on, then so be it. But I just wanted to get a second opinion. It wasn't in my contract to make those improvements. There was a bench on there that was probably 2 foot on center. I knew that was overspanned and it wouldn't support a composite. The stairs, I think, were about, I haven't been there for a while, were about 18 inches. In the joist, there might be a couple overspans, but for the most part, they were 16 inches, and we were putting these perpendicular to the joist, the composite Trex material. So I understand the violations as far as they're written. If I can refer to some information I submitted from the typical deck installation guide, and it's not real clear on exactly. I mean, it's pretty clear if you're using wood and you're using screws or you're using nails, but what it says on page here we go. it would be page 4 of the typical deck surface installation. It says, placement and attachment of plastic composites shall be per manufacturer's instructions. And the attachment way that I used was a system called side screwing. It's a hidden fastener system where the fastener itself is not shown on the top of the board, which I had in my contract. And they basically say in the typical deck installation, placement of the attachment of plastic composites shall be per manufacturer's instructions. And I went to Trex, which is the material that was used. And on page 35 of their installation guide, they show the use of side screwing on their deck boards, whether it would be grooved or not grooved. And they actually mentioned that this is something that should be used in extreme conditions. And what I was told from Mr. Garrity and Mrs. Smar was that this installation is not approved by the county. Only the methods that are allowed by Trex. There is other ways to install these boards. You can use clips, you can face screw them, but this is the method I choose. And I think it's a better method. I mean, the clip system, I've gone back to decks that were not just Trex, but all the clip systems that have a T-clip. It attaches one screw to a clip that goes in either side of the groove. It allows the joist to actually bow, span, move up and down, and the deck boards themselves move with it. So when you take off a wooden deck, you remove all those joists, the deck boards themselves, the railings, they all start to lean out a little bit because the deck is part of the structure. So I think it's a better method. It uses twice as many screws. You're using one screw per clip on a clip system. I'm putting 2 screws at every joist with the side screw method. So, and that's specifically, I guess, technically what I wanted to say. I don't agree with the violations. I agree on who has to pay for it, and I disagree about the method not being allowed by Fairfax as far as the side screwing. I'm going to go ahead and turn my mic off.
Okay.
Is it any way I could speak briefly? This is Leo Brumfield.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, you are, I guess, part of the appeal or the appellant. So if you have some additional comments or testimony, certainly go ahead. And then I'm going to have the board members open the floor to them to ask questions of you, Mr. Brumfield, or Mr. Young.
Okay, thank you so much. As my wife stated earlier, we're not professionals in deck building, specifications, or any of that. However, we were specific on hidden fasteners because we wanted a certain look. We wanted it to be professional. And when Mr. Young described, Mr. Joe described hidden fasteners, we got screws in our deck that's not hidden fasteners. That's not hidden, most of them. And so that is what he said was a hidden fastener. It's something that really, really is not. He said a screw is considered a fastener. Well, we paid more. We wanted a quote for a fastener that you couldn't see. And we got screws all over the deck. And so I just wanted to be on record to say that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna.
Can I add just one thing? This is Pamela. I'm sorry, we're in 2 different locations. I'm at work, He's working from home, so I'm sorry we're not side by side. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'll be brief. So with Mr. Young, the other issue is that, as I mentioned, the bench, and he mentioned that that substructure that he said he would need to support it and put in the 2x4s. And I said, fine. I said, do whatever what you need to do. And he said there would be an increase in price. And I said, okay. And it was supposed to be $400 more that he charged us for that. We never had an issue with that. However, when the deck was completed and, we're looking at the deck and where he said it's all done, I'm looking at the bench and I go, I'm looking, I'm like, well, where are the 2x4s that you said you were going to put in to support it? So he didn't even do that part. So, here he knew, and he said he would need to put that in, but here he's saying the deck is fully done and finalized, and he didn't even do that part. Now, granted, he did take back the $400. He says, okay, I'll take off the money, but that wasn't the point of it. The point of it was we wanted the deck done properly and safely, and we trusted that he would do that. So the part of him even doing that part with the bench, he didn't do, although he knew he should have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask.
Am I allowed to re-comment, or is that it?
Well, I'm getting, it's.
I understand.
No, I'm probably going to, based on what I'm hearing so far, it's like we have. I'm going to ask the Brumfields, I guess moving forward, if you have input to actually, I'm going to get your input as part of the county, or I'm going to try and do this, because it sounds like we have three parties. We have the county, we have the appellant, and then we have the homeowners, which may not necessarily, if you pardon my French, Mr. Young, be on your side per se. So I'm going to.
Dave, this is Amato.
Yes.
I agree with what you're looking to do. I believe that would be the correct.
Yes. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna get to rebuttal. I'm going to have the appellant speak, and I'm gonna have board members ask them questions. I'm going to have the homeowner make any additional comments they have, and have the board members ask them questions, and then I'll get to the county, because it sounds like we've got kind of three parties. So we've heard from the appellant and the homeowner, and as I said, there'll be a chance for rebuttal. I'm going to ask now the county to make their statement, and then I'm going to turn it over to the board and let the board ask questions of all three parties. So we've heard the technical detail from Mr. Young. We've heard and had additional input from the homeowners. I'm going to ask the county to make their not summary statement, that's already been done, to actually go into some of the details, and then I'm going to turn it over to the board to ask questions of all three parties.
Okay, Mr. Conover, thank you. My name is Melissa Smar. I work in Land Development Services. I am Scott Haggerty's supervisor. If you will allow, I would like to share my screen just to go over the presentation that Inspector Haggerty put together.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. But before I do that, I want to begin by saying that there are 6 violations, as I think the board is very aware based on the information presented prior to the hearing. The first 2 violations I'll discuss, and then Inspector Haggerty will go into the technical details of the 4 violations. So the first one is a violation of 108.1, which is basically that a permit was needed. We believe that a permit was needed based on the structural work that Mr. Young did on the deck. A permit was not obtained. I believe Mr. Young in his testimony agreed that a permit was needed. 113.3 of the code talks about the inspections. Inspections would not have been done until a permit was obtained. So based on that logic, we believe that a permit was needed and inspections would have been required to close out that permit. Inspector Haggerty, are you ready to go over your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wanted to kind of preface this by going over 112.1 because there seems to be a question as to who is responsible to obtain the permit. And 112.1 of the Uniform Statewide Building Code, Chapter 1, it shall be the duty of any person performing work covered under this code to comply with all applicable provisions of this code and to perform complete work as to secure the results intended by the USBC. So, I mean, the person actually doing the work is the responsible party. That is the person that's going to be obtaining the permits, making sure that inspections are done, things along those lines. Just so that that's clear. Now, we have 4, I'm not going to deal with the inspections or the or when applications are required, as I think Melissa's already covered that. We have 4 other violations, and there are additional violations that I haven't cited based on this was a existing deck. So you'll just have to kind of bear with me on this. We have violation number 3, installation of plastic composites, which is going to deal with Trex decking, which is what the contractor installed. Violation number 3 is going to deal with the nailing, screwing without blind attachments from Trex. They have very specific attachment methods that they list in their installation instructions. The device that was used on the site is from a company, Camo. And what they do is they have a side installation angled screw that comes with in a gun that you can actually screw repeatedly over and over again. It's made by them, and it's designed for a very specific product. And I would argue Trex is not one of them. They do not list it in any of their application, any of their installation information. Does not show Camo as a legitimate installation. They don't sell their screws. They have very detailed installation requirements as far as routing, how to attach, the embedment of that screw. It's all very self-explanatory when you look at the installation guide. So when we get to the different sections that are going to be related to some of these violations, then we'll go ahead and point that out. The difference between violation 3 with the screwing with the blind screw system, you're going to see that the wood itself or the composite material, unless it's pre-drilled, routed, pre-drilled and then screwed according to the instructions, it will damage the product. Trex will be damaged by this installation. We also have violation 4, the plastic composites for deck boards, treads. This is for where we have span issues. As you're going to see, and what we'll point out in the installation guide is the type of decking that was used requires 9-inch on center max spacing for a stringer and a stairs case. That's listed in the manual. We'll show that. We will also be showing where we have joist spans in excess of 20 inches, which is also a violation of the spans on the deck itself. So we'll be looking at that. And then, of course, the live loads is tied into when you have overspanning, using improper material for structural components, things like this. The deflection is compromised. You're going to get an overabundance. When I stepped on the deck, I had a large deflection in the actual decking boards. There's also support issues that we're going to address with the manufacturer's installation instructions, because anytime you have a break in a butt joint or a miter joint that's going to break over a joist system, you must have 2 joists at that location. Each side of the Trex is going to need full support, and it's clear in their details, and we'll be showing that. Now, I included the entire 2020 decking installation guide from Trex right from their website. I didn't want to piecemeal something together for you guys that would show page 3 and then we're going to jump to page 10, page 23, you know, stuff like that. I wanted you to have the whole manual there so that we're not hiding anything. We want to be very transparent in what we're producing and what we're going to show you guys. I also included in there a copy of the deck details so that we can show Fairfax County basic requirements that we require on decks, and that's any deck that's built. And also I have the railing guide from Trex's website showing their very specific installation instructions on the rails and what the components are and how that goes together. So I'm going to have Melissa scroll through here, and we're going to go ahead and get started on the installation guide and reviewing what the code requirements and also what Trex has as their requirements.
Okay, before we begin, Scott, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to slowly scroll. If there's, you know, basically just going over what we have in this. This is just a picture of the Trex. Okay, this is all just basic information about Trex and their index. So we'll kind of go bypass all that stuff. We have everything here. Oh, slow down. Here we have, this is about the tools that are allowed to be used or required for Trex installation. These are different applications for different types of products. They're recommending having a miter saw. You know, can we scroll down just a little bit? And right there. Okay, now we have, they give us the different types of saws, a jigsaw, miter saw, that's just to cut part of the, you know, prepping material for installation. On the right, we have the specific deck board attachment tools, screw guns. Some Trex recommended deck fasteners are compatible with screw guns. Refer to recommended fasteners page for more information. So this is where we're getting our, if you're going to use a screw gun, you are going to have to use what they're recommending or something that's going to meet their specific standard. You can also use a Tiger Claw pneumatic gun for the hidden fasteners when you're using Trex specific hidden fasteners. They're talking about, we can scroll down a little more, talking about here the types of drills that they recommend using in order to install their screws and things like that. They also have their Trex router bit, which is what you would use when installing Trex with hidden fasteners. And we can scroll down. Okay, as we can see here in this picture, if we scroll up just a little more, this is the camo style gun. And what it does is it takes a screw and it's literally on an angle that's like a 45 degree or something similar. And it goes in and it literally is like a self-tapper screw that just goes in and attaches. And as you can see, what we're looking at here, if you look at the deflection, where it's blown out the sidewall of the Trex. Also, we can see the screw is countersunk considerably. You can barely see the screw itself. And we can go ahead and scroll down a little bit more.
And which violations does this cover, Scott?
This would be under the attachment for violation number 3. Installation of plastic composites. The manufacturer is very specific in how to install this. And if we look, you're kind of looking at this sideways. You can rotate it real quick. All the way around. And now you can see how these see the tear out from the screw going in. That's not an indication of a pre-drilled hole. We can see where these are very visible. Not that really matters, but this is not a proper attachment for Trex. Let's scroll down a little bit more. As you can see, the holes are not round. It's kind of a blowout. If we want to continue up, and we can flip that back to the right flip again. There we go. All right, now we're going to go through. This is care and washing and all that stuff. So we can scroll through this part. Just how to clean the deck. Okay, now we're getting into planning ahead. And let's slow down right here. Okay, for Trex decking, we have sorry, bear with me here. All right. When we go through here, we have all the choices here. I want to point under railing because we're going to be getting to that. And this is pick the railing style you want. This is because Trex actually has engineered rail systems, and they are you pick the style and the type, and then you buy the components from Trex that are all required to be installed per their railing installation guides. So we can continue down. Okay, this is about installing Trex still, wood burning or gas fireplaces and things. Keep going.
Okay, well, I'll go to the next part because we had to break this up into 7 parts, everyone, because of, the space.
All right, here we go. Let's slow down here. Here we have the different types of boards that Trex offers. There's a 1-inch square edge board at the top. We have a 1-inch grooved edge board. And those are the two typical deck profile. And as you can see, we have some are 1x6 and some are 7/8 of an inch thick, which is a little less. It's a select. And we can continue on. Oh, go back up.
Go back up.
Just a little bit. Okay, here are all the different Trex hidden fastener systems. We have a connector clip, which is stainless. We have a gun pail clip. That's typically for ends where they're going to come up to like a fascia board and they want a butt board in there. You have the universal starter clip, universal fastener, glass-filled nylon, and then you have their router bit. This is all listed under their product information. Let's continue. Okay, here we go. In our list of deck fastening recommended fasteners, this is for deck and fascia. But when we go through here, I will point out that there is no fastener that's listed as the camo deck drive. We have multiple different manufacturers, different deck screws and different applications, but none of these list the camo fastener.
And you're still talking about violations 3 and 4, Scott, or have you moved on?
Yes, this will be violations 3, 4, and 3 and 4. Yes. So we can scroll down a little bit. Okay, let's stop here. Here are the notes from the manufacturer, and we have: do not use any hidden fasteners that are plug-based with Trex enhanced profiles with scallop bottom. These are scallop bottom boards. They give you the length of screws. Then they give you all the different kind of screws or products that they are going to typically allow in their package, and also they even give you, if you have questions, you can also call Trex. Okay, Melissa, we can go down a little bit more. Okay, and this is just going over how to attach fascia board, and I do have that off, and I don't know why it's okay. Keep going. Okay, here we have, this is all on fascia attachment. We can keep going. Okay, here we go. Here's the beginning of fastening Trex Escapes, Transcend, and Enhance, and Trex Select. So no matter what material board it is, there are the same basic requirements in all instances. We have a requirement to where we're able to pull a screw in that top right picture, 1 inch in from the edge and 1 inch up from the outside corner, both directions. Okay, and if we come down, you can see where they have face nailing, they have their T-clips and how to attach those. If we notice, all of the pictures have a routed edge as far as their the recess cut from the router bit. And when we look up, keep going. Here we're going to see that whenever you have a break in Trex, you're going to see double joists on every location where you're going to have two pieces of material come together. And that's on a 90-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 30-degree angle, 60-degree angle. It doesn't really matter what you're running. When you're going to break and butt two boards together, either in a butt joint or in a miter joint, you're going to have two required 2-bys. We can scroll down. Here we can see. No, that was already right. Okay, right there. Now we should be able to look between the two. Can we scroll up just a little bit? Okay. Here's this is a single 2-by joist that's running underneath the deck. As you can see, I might have 5/8 of an inch bearing. Maybe it might even be close to a 1/2 inch, but it's definitely not a full 2-by. If we have 3/16 of an inch between the deck boards as required by Trex, then I think we're looking at just maybe a 1/2 inch, maybe 9/16 of a bearing for the wood to composite support connection. And we also have everything's countersunk down into the material. Now we can go down to our next picture. This is what we're looking at from underneath. You can see a single member joist to another single member joist sitting next to it about 5 inches away or so. And that top board is just simply run with its 1/2 inch on each side bearing. There's no true support under the ends of these joists or under the end of these deck boards as they come across. And as you can see also, there are variance in how wide the boards sit apart. But that's pretty minor.
Is this covering violation number 5, Scott?
This is still 3 and 4.
Okay.
And also, let's see what 5 is again. 5 was the overspan, and that's coming up.
Okay.
So this is just basically support. Still, we're looking at support. Okay, and as you can see by this, scroll down a little bit more. Here we go with a detailed drawing. Now this is rooftop sleeper system, but it basically shows your 1/8 inch to 3/16 inch butt joints, and it also shows the double that would be required at the break point of these joists, as you can see by the photo and the circle, showing how it lands on a double joist. Residential, let's not go crazy. Here we go. Residential lists 16-inch on center, even in their drawing, 4 sleepers. Go ahead. This is metal. Keep going. Okay, this is where it's going to talk about joist spanning for decking. And if we look, it gives you where the 90 degrees, 60, 45, and 30. We can go down a little bit farther. Okay, here's the actual Trex decking span chart. Deck 1-inch boards, including porch select boards, which are the 7/8. 16-inch on center for residential decks. 16-inch on center. Here, when we scroll down, you're going to see the bay on the right is above the beam is 16 inches on center. And then you can see how much larger the bay on the left, which actually exceeds 20 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's another, here we go, we can stop. Now I would also point out in this also is going to show that there's no flashing up against the house wall where where the ledger board is.
And that's violation 6, correct, Scott?
Violation number 6, which is no flashing. And because we have siding installed behind the ledger that was original. Now, Mr. Young did not do that attachment. This is already existing. But when you come across something that's not allowed, you can't just say, well, since it's existing, I'm just going to cover it up and leave it. You have to make some attempt in order to correct structural issues or issues that could be jeopardize the future integrity of the structure. And what we have here is you can see the 16 on center joist spans to the right. And then if we look next to this double, that's where they have the transition up top with the decking butting in and not having proper support. We also have a over 20-inch span here, which is going to exceed the manufacturer's installation allowance. And then they also don't have proper support. So adding the overspan with the improper support, it's going to be issues for meeting the minimum 40 pounds per square foot loads on the deck structure, and could be a possible problem. Okay, let's scroll down a little further. Well,
it's going to be the next part, and then Scott, I think if we go over violation 5 in the interest of time, I think we'll probably need to conclude our testimony.
Well, we'll get there. Here we have where it's required gapping. Go ahead. 1/8 to 3/16 throughout. So where it talks about the abutting gaps. Keep going. Okay, and here we're looking at where they're talking about you can possibly please go back up just a little bit. I just want to see right there. Good. Abutting board attachment requirements. Here you can see where they have the double joists, and then they also say you can add a gap in there of 1 1/8 inch to allow for water drainage. But we still have full bearing on this double. If we look to the left, here's our installation for prone to large temperature shifts within a 24-hour period. What we have is you take your router, you pre-drill, and then you set your screw in, and it talks about routing square edge boards for Trex Hideaway hidden fasteners. This is the round profile that we're looking at in this picture with the 1-inch in set, which would be impossible with that 1/2 inch picture we saw. There's no way to meet this requirement. And also, without having the routed lip, Here you can we scroll down a little bit more?
The other way.
There we go. And here's where they show you how to router. They also give you hidden fasteners must be used at every joist. You know, and then they talk about how to attach those. Do not countersink the screw heads into the fasteners. It's going to be the same thing for the decking. You do not want to countersink the screw in the decking for a hidden system, which is evident by the detail on the left inside of the smaller square box that shows how the screw is actually attached to the joist. Nowhere in here is there a camo style screw mentioned or looked at. And we're going, here are all the different types of fasteners that they allow. Again, they have T-clips and different C-clips and things that are set up. They give you very specific instructions on screwing, attachment, spacing, face screwing, end screwing with the clips. Here again, go back. You're going a little fast. Right here, we have again, you know, they give you the, go down just a little bit. Okay, we have again the same exact detail shown again. Use the same screw supplied with hidden fastener. So install at both ends and center a board. This is, you know, another view of how they want their, if you have to blind screw using the screw itself without the T-clips or any of their products, they give you very specific information on how to install it. And that's
Okay.
installed. Let's
Okay.
keep.
Okay, Scott, again, with the interest of time, I think we can open it up for questions.
Well, I just keep going. I haven't got to the rail.
Well, I'm going to, yeah, Melissa, I'm going to pick up on what you've said. I know that the members of the board have gotten all the information that the county has provided us, which I think includes this. So if you can hit the high points moving forward that relate to any of the numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6, then what I'll do is open it up to questions of, as I said earlier, the appellant, the homeowners, and the county.
Yep, no problem. Okay, here's the stair. I think if we go up, there was a chart above this on the page before. Here we have, well, now it's kind of flipped around, but we'll do this. Okay, if we scroll down a little bit, they give you all their gapping. They give you your lengths, and then see the chart below. This is typical. Any 36-inch wide at 4-inch stringers are required, but if we go down here, I have a chart on the right here. Here we got with the different on center. When you have select enhance with the scallop bottom, select or enhance or escapes decking. With the scallop bottom, 9-inch on center is your required maximum space between stringers. And if we go down, this is upside down, but there's 36-inch set of stairs. You know, in order to go 9, you're going to need 5 stringers to span this space. We're upside down again. And that's sideways. All right, but that was we want to rotate one more. There we go. Leave it. Okay, now we can go down. So that's one issue. This is, and we're going to have to look at this. If we could turn that one more to the right. Okay, now scroll up a little bit. This is the header. And you can see where the top of the stringer and The actual stringer and the tread boards are all meeting. If we could scroll down just a couple inches. This is a pinched, I don't know, separated header. There's the beam. Stop scrolling. And we have the two members of the header that are supposed to be supporting the stairs. There's no mechanical attachment or anything. It's just nailed to the ends of a joist and nailed to the beam. So this is all structurally unsound. That's not something I wrote up, just happens to be, but it was existing. So I was going to talk to the contractor about that. Here is the existing rail. They talk about max overhang is 3/4 of an inch. You're going to want to go one more to the right, rotate right. There we go. Now come down a little bit. Max span here is 6 inches, supposed to be for a sphere. And my fist is 4.5 inches, just so you can get a perspective on how large this area is on the existing deck. This is something I didn't write up, but is a violation of the code if technically if we're looking at rail systems and all that. Trex also has a 3/4 inch max overhang, and we're exceeding that with this scalloped decking. Okay, we can go down. That's just another picture. We can continue. Okay, here's all the different requirements on how to do stairs. Keep going. It's all with the blind nailing. Here's a picture of flashing missing. The flashing would be located under the decking on top of the okay, if we could rotate it to the right, please, 3 times. Okay, right there is the deck boards up against the house. If we can scroll down a little bit and get rid of the black box, please. Okay, and now we want to go, you can see how the siding here is going underneath the ledger, which is not allowed. And then if we go up, that's by the siding manufacturer, by the deck detail, and by every manufacturer's installation instructions I've ever seen.
Okay, Scott, so the only thing we need to do, and then we have to end, is the railing.
Yep, scroll on down.
Okay, well, I'm at the end, so
Yeah,
hold on.
next one. Okay, Trex has very specific details, and if we can get rid of the little black box again. Okay. When we go into the different rail types, they give you here all the different railing selections that you can use and how to attach. Okay. I'll just let her keep going.
I know, we're gonna just show the picture because remember, this board has the information.
Okay, you already passed 4 pictures I need, but that's okay. Keep going. My pictures are not as important as the installation instruction pictures that show what they have to do. As you can see here, okay, let's go. They give you installation of railing support brackets, and then they tell you how to attach them. The railing is an engineered rail, so the top and bottom rails, the cap rail are all in connection with each other, and they all work with each other. If we go down a little bit more, this is how to install a traditional rail. You can see how they have the attachment brackets are going to be located between the posts. And they are attached around the sleeve into the 4x4 membrane. And these are engineered top and bottom rails. If we go down a little bit farther, Let's see where it is. See, measure and cut between the posts. They give you all the pre-drill. Keep going. Have position of the balusters, full attachments. Okay, they talk about how to screw up into their rail with their support anchors and everything. Keep going. They have a glass panel. Keep going. Okay, here we go. See, now this gives you where in their approved method, the top, no, let's keep going. This is their glass panel. Not interested. Okay, go back up. Or it might be right here. Yeah, this just gives you the spacing how to install angled railings. Yeah, we don't need that. Keep going. And this is all the different requirements that they have and how to install these different rail types. Even for their stairs, they have specific railing requirements. All right, here we go into the pictures.
Let's talk about the railing that you wanted to show.
Yep,
So we'll
right
go
here.
here.
There we go. Now what we have here is a face-mounted 2x4 and wood pickets. And then on top of this, we have a Trex decking. It's not a, you can use Trex decking in certain applications for a rail cap, but that's when you use the Trex system in use with that, because the Trex system's engineered and that top rail is not going to be handling a lateral load of any kind. It's built into the posts and the brackets and the installation of the top and the bottom rail. And if we look down, keep going, we can see this is the, they have the decking, and this is even something that's, been installed as a top cap, and that's not going to be allowed because it doesn't meet the minimum 200-pound load limits. Here we have where I've got just two members attached, 3 nails into a beam. Should be some blocking in here to help stable the rail system. There are things that would improve this deck that are in effect today that might not have been in effect at the time. We always recommend that you, add the minimum number of fasteners and things to meet code if you're going to be working on something, if it's not safe to begin with.
Okay, Scott, I think you've gone over all 4 violations. Thank you very much for your technical expertise. That ends our presentation, and we're ready for questions.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is to keep this organized, and I'm going to call on each of the board members to ask questions first of the appellant, second, the homeowners, and third, the county, rather than trying to deal with questioning all 3 parties at the same, concurrently or at the same time. And I'd like to ask the board members to, I guess, be specific about the question and something that we really need to know that relates to the 2 issues that frame this, which is, is a permit required and subsequent inspections and approvals. And I think more to the point, knowing what we know about the code, does what has been done comply with the code or not? So I'm going to, Amato, do you have any questions of the appellant?
That's Mr. Young?
Yes, sorry.
No, I do not have any questions of Mr. Young.
George, do you have any questions for Mr. Young?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Rob Fisher, do you have any questions for Mr. Young?
I do. One question. Mr. Young, did you use the toenail screw for the entire deck?
No. The boards that are on the edge of the step are square edged. They have a better appeal looking at it as you're going up the steps. So they are face screwed. If you noticed that in that presentation from Mr. I'm not sure if it's Garrity or Harrity, excuse me if I got it wrong. They showed that screw gun, and the only way you can use a screw gun that they had, the long 4-foot one, there's no pre-drilling. I mean, the screws come attached in a roll, and you face screw straight down. So they're obviously allowing that. And they make the square edge board is only made to be screwed one way. You don't route them. The Trex groove boards are pre-routed. So I hope that answers the question. And also,
in the field,
in
the
field,
no camo clip.
No camo clip, just the side screw. There was a border around the original deck was a herringbone, and the underneath picture you've seen where there's two joists together, that's where the border for the herringbone was meeting. So it was. I told the Brumfields that you couldn't do a 45-degree angle on a 16-inch joist, so we went with the horizontal or the perpendicular, but they wanted that border to remain, so we had a different color of Trex board there, and that was face screwed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Rob?
That's all.
Okay, Mike Grinnell, do you have any questions for Mr. Young?
I do not.
Darren Shoemate, do you have any questions for Mr. Young?
I have no questions.
Okay, and I do not have any questions for Mr. Young. Okay, Amato, do you have any questions for either Mr. or Mrs. Broomfield?
One question. Are they aware of whether the original deck was permitted when it was built? Was it a permit for the original deck?
So I can answer, I don't know. The deck was there when we purchased the home.
Okay.
So I don't know. We didn't put that deck in, it was already there.
Thank you.
Thank you. George, do you have any questions for the Broomfields?
No, no questions.
Rob Fisher?
No, sir.
Mike Grinnell?
None.
Darren Shoemate?
No questions.
I do not. Okay, and Amato, do you have questions of the county?
I do.
Okay.
Same question that I asked the homeowner. Was the original deck permitted by the county?
Melissa, sir, so thank you, Melissa Smart with Fairfax County. I'm looking at the records right now. There was a permit back in 1996 for this deck. And there were no other permits on the deck that I can see.
Okay, so if there was a permit issued in 1996 for the deck, would I be able to assume that what was built and what is not changing was in accordance with the requirements of the permit when it was issued?
So I'll answer it this way. The deck never received an approved final inspection from the county, and we don't blame the current homeowners by that at all. There was an approved footing inspection. There was never an approved final. The description of the permit was to build deck with stairs, no tub per county detail.
Okay.
Any other questions for the county, Amato?
Not right now.
Okay. George?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions here for Melissa. Melissa, some people believe that if you have a deck and you're just replacing the decking boards themselves, and not replacing anything underneath them, that you don't need an inspection. Is that true or false?
So, and I'll lean on Scott as well, as he's the technical expert, but our rule of thumb is that if you're, if it's just a couple of decking boards that you're replacing, then yes, technically you would not need a permit under the definition of the building code. But if you're replacing a significant portion of the decking boards, regardless if you're doing footings or not, it, in our estimation and based on the code, it would require a building permit and subsequent inspections.
So if somebody's completely resurfacing the deck with new boards, you need a inspection, a permit.
We need a permit and then schedule inspections. Yes, sir.
Okay, a second question with regard to the typical deck construction guidance that Fairfax County offers up. And it's been a while since I saw this, but does it include instructions on flashing?
It does.
It does. Okay.
Foundation attachment details. They give you 3 different types. One's to concrete, one's to cinder block, and one's to wood.
Okay. Oh, you answered my question. Thank you. One other quick question. Does the typical deck construction guidance also address Trex and other modern materials, more modern materials than wood?
Absolutely. It talks about submitting evaluation service reports from the ICC or other evaluation service companies that do the reports. You have to turn that in with the plans so that we know what type of decking you're using, because composites can have different spans, different ratings, from different manufacturers.
Okay, thank you very much. No more questions for me.
Okay, Rob Fisher.
No, I'm good.
Okay, Mike Grinnell.
I only had one for Scott, and Scott, thank you for the presentation. It seems that the existing deck had multiple violations before work was ever started on it. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Darren Shoemate.
No questions.
Okay, I have a couple for the county. A question was asked a moment ago about if I was just replacing a couple of boards. Am I correct that the deck that was there was wood boards as the decking?
That would be for Joe, because I wasn't there.
Mr. Broomfield, then can I ask a question? Were the decking boards before this replacement wood?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the county would be, that I'm using a different material. Now, this is a plastic composite. Wouldn't that be possibly a cause for having to get a permit, as opposed to, oh, I'm just replacing some wood with similar wood?
Yeah, the building code allows for you to do minor repairs to a structure. If I'm replacing a couple pickets on out of 200, I'm doing 8 of them, because there were 8 pickets that rotted and the rest are good.
Okay.
Normal repair, no permit. But if I go to replace every single picket, my top rail, decking, when I start getting into structural components, that top rail on the rail is for the guardrail is a structural component. The decking is a structural component. That's the diaphragm that is going to absorb a majority of your wind.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah, so sir, what I think you're asking is, if they go from wood to Trex material or any other material, but in this case Trex, yes, we would expect that they would get a permit.
Thank you. I guess, again, 2 more for the county. So, getting to this issue of, do I need a permit or not? And, and if so, doesn't the LDS website actually have a specific place for decks? And if I just Googled Fairfax County building code decks, that would come up, and it gives me detail about what a deck is, what I have to do in terms of, permitting, a lot of the things that really you presented. Isn't that readily available on your website?
Yes,
Yeah.
Scott actually and I, so Melissa Smar with Land Development Services.
Yep.
Yes, basically all you have to do is Google or Bing Fairfax County deck detail. The current detail is the 2015 deck detail.
Right.
And then basically because all of our permitting has gone online because of the ongoing pandemic.
Right.
We have a lot of information online related to what needs a permit, what doesn't.
So is it correct to say if I had, which that's readily available, and I had looked at that, I had gotten the specs, I had actually used some of the sample drawings that the county has, the fact that that says, yes, you need a permit. If I had done that, submitted the plans and specs, got the approval, got the inspections to begin with, do you think we'd be in the position we're in now?
Our opinion is no.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
and when we and just real fast, when we got the complaint from the homeowners, because they filed it with the Virginia Attorney General's office, we reached out to Mr. Young. He stated that in his testimony, and we were hoping we could get this resolved before it came to this body.
Understood. Okay, so I have no more questions. So now I'm going to ask Mr. Young, any rebuttal, comments, additional information you would like to provide for us. I'll do the same for the homeowners and the same for the county. And then I'll again ask the board members if they have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you Google replacing deck boards on that site, it doesn't go to you need a permit. And I've looked at that before. I'll make this quick. Trex does make their own fasteners, and they don't really recommend too many other things but their own fasteners because that's what they want to sell. The abutted joints that Mr. Haggerty was displaying there, that also shows the clips. So if you're screwing them down to a joist, they don't show you abutting those, putting two joists underneath every time you abut those Trex deck boards. And like I said, that screw gun that they showed, there's no way you can pre-drill with a screw gun. And they're allowing you to face screw Trex deck boards with that screw gun. It's pretty much the same system, except I went to the side. The screws that I use, the camo screws, I don't know why they're not on that Trex website. They're just like the Phillips screws, the Phillips screws and the other Simpson screws that were on that list. When I was first contacted by Fairfax, they had told me about the railing, which I have never heard of. It was news to me. I don't know where it's not in the typical typical deck plan that shows if you were just replacing a board, they don't cover that you can't replace it with the Trex. I took the 2x6 that's off the top of the rail, and everything I did was per the customer's request. They took a 2x6 on top of the railing itself. I didn't build the railing, didn't put the post in, didn't the beam there showing under the stairs. I mean, if that was a violation now, that was a violation then. I just took the board off and replaced it with Trex. And I stated that if those stairs are a violation and the rail's a violation, I will take the Trex off and put 2x6 back on, which was originally there for the stairs and for the top rail. And I would also put the clips in. And then I just started steamrolling into all these other things they were talking about that they wanted me to pull out of my pocket to fix. He was showing the joist underneath. I mean, they're attached to the house with 1/2-inch lag bolts. And if you're talking about violations about bringing a deck up to code, which obviously this thing was inspected and was grandfathered in, they don't even allow that now. The other things, that would be the biggest oversight, I would think, is deck safety, disattaching from the house. And I don't see how you could hold me responsible for things that were grandfathered in. That's pretty much all I had to say. As far as, I'm sorry it came to this point. I haven't seen the deck since July. Looking at those pictures, I was proud of the deck when we left. I thought it's a good looking deck. It's a good looking deck now. And I'm sorry it came to this point. Me and the Brumfields just got to a bad place, and there didn't seem to be any reconciling. It was 2 weeks after the deck was finished that I was getting calls about the screws, and I believe they were referring to screws that had missed the joist and were kind of sticking out below, which shouldn't be. As far as not seeing anything, it doesn't matter what system you use, whether you use clips or you screw it in the face or you screw it in the side, you're going to see it. You're going to see clips in between each joist. I mean, there's no totally invisible application. And the screws that Mr. Haggerty displayed there, the whole deck does not look like that. There's a couple screws that look like they ballooned out. Yeah, that doesn't show too well, but they are also on the side of the joist. So, all right, I'm not gonna ramble on. So that's all I had to say. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that mic off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The homeowners, do you have any final, I'll say rebuttal? We've already heard, your statements, but if you have anything additional to add, or please feel free to do so now.
Yes.
This is Pamela Brumfield. So just very quickly, I do want to state that in terms of rebuttal, the same day that the deck was finalized, my husband pointed out some concerns to Mr. Young, and Mr. Young walked off. So it was not several weeks later. He knew that we had concerns that day. If you look at the surface of the deck, just looking at it aesthetically, it may look okay. It's just like I gave him the example that you can paint over a hole in a wall and it might look okay until you put your fist in and there's nothing there. So we communicated that same day. And not only that, I communicated to him via email within 2 days. And I can most certainly send those emails to you because I kind of keep everything, where we questioned the lack of hidden fasteners. There were broken boards. We communicated within a couple of days. Mr. Young's response to us we found to be very unprofessional. He denied, he's like, I use fasteners. I use fasteners. A paper clip is a fastener. And so his response was just so disheartening to us. It was very disheartening to us because we really didn't want to get here. And we tried just as homeowners first to resolve it with him without filing any complaint anywhere. We went to Mr. Young several times and he just was not responsive to us. I even had said to him where there's supposed to be an end cap on the railing and you see how it looks, there's no end cap. I said to him, how can this look like this? I even said this doesn't look right. And what his answer was, he's like, I've never done this before for anybody. I'm painting the color of that end cap so that it matches your deck. And I said, well, I don't think it's supposed to look like that. So, the bottom line is none of us wanted it to go here at all. And the original deck had a herringbone pattern. So I don't know.
I don't want to,
yeah.
What?
So I'm done.
I think we have the gist of that. What we're focused on is the safety of what's there and compliance with the code, and who called when, whom, and who sent a text to whom at what time is.
Right. It's immaterial. My last point, though, is that it had a herringbone pattern, and I don't know with the herringbone pattern if the deck was up to code. I don't know, the wood is cut different ways, and I don't know if that made any difference or not. That was the original deck, so I'm done.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for the Brumfields? Does any board member have questions? Or the appellant?
No.
Okay.
No.
And county, last comment, rebuttal, input?
So Melissa Smar with Land Development Services, I would just say this is a closing. Based on the thorough testimony of Inspector Scott Haggerty, the opening statement from Paul Emmerich from the County Attorney's Office, and my description of the information of violations 1 and 2 related to the permits and inspections, I believe we have proven our case, and we would like for the board to uphold the building official's determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions of the county? Board members?
I still have a couple more.
Okay, Amato.
Mr. Haggerty, thank you for your testimony, but you indicated that the railing didn't meet the county's 200-pound lateral requirement because the top rail was the decking material. So what would it have to be in order to comply with the lateral requirement of 200 pounds?
5/4 board or 2x
Okay,
as a top cap.
as a top cap. Okay.
That's even listed in Fairfax County deck detail.
So would a solid Trex piece across the top be compliant?
No.
So you're saying, okay, so what you're saying is no Trex deck, no deck with a top rail of Trex would be compliant?
No, that's not what I'm saying, because you have Trex components to build a guardrail system. If you use those guardrail components, then it's engineered to meet that 200-pound load.
Okay.
They allow it in their system and say you can use Trex enhanced decking as a top cap, as a beauty deck, or as a cup support. You know, it's not a structural component. The structural components are their anchors in the way that the top and bottom rails connect to the posts.
Okay.
That gives you your structural. Then you add that as a decorative cap. That's fine. But 2x, if you know, you can hold a 16-foot 2x4 up or 2x6, and literally it'll be straight. You hold a 16-foot piece of Trex up from the middle, it touches on both sides when you get it 4 feet off the ground, and you need 2 people to carry it because it's that flimsy. So that's why the spans, you know, a 2x6 decking can span 2 feet, no problem. Trex 16 inches, that's max.
All right. That was, thank you. That was one. Question two is more of a point for the county, actually. And I'll raise it now just because while we were talking, I did some looking up on the website. Trex does not include Camel as a accepted as a fastener. However, Camel does in their website include Trex as an applicable use of their material. And Camel is sold at Lowe's any day of the week. And they list it as, if you go to Camel, it says it can be used for Trex. So this is an observation, but I think I would recommend that the county include something in their criteria that clarifies this a little better, just so that we don't end up with this conversation on an ongoing basis. And the question for the county, last question I've got is, the permit had the permit that would have been required would have been to replace the decking from wood to Trex.
Yes.
Okay. If in the permit process, if you're using the existing structure and the existing ledger, if that was the assumption that was made by the permit when it would have been submitted, would the county have inspected the existing structure and the existing ledger prior to the work beginning in order to validate whether or not it was consistent with the current code or the previous code?
Basically, that's up to the contractor. We're just witnesses to the work that gets done. But if I know the product I'm about to apply is not adequate with support underneath it to be able to use that product, it's almost in a car. You have a grade 3 bolt. Let's go with one that doesn't have a grade and put it in that slot. And when it shears, you can say, oh, either that was the bolt you were supposed to use or it was not.
Sir,
you made, that's what you're looking at.
okay, sir, to answer your question, Melissa Smar, we typically, as the county, do not do an inspection prior to the work being done unless the contractor or the applicant, permit holder, whomever it is, would request a routine inspection.
Amato, other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
George?
No, I don't have any questions.
Rob Fisher for the county? Any questions?
No, sir, I'm good.
Mike Grinnell?
None.
Darren?
No questions.
Okay, and I don't either. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and public testimony from everyone, and I'm going to ask a board member for a motion on the appeal. The motion would be to either uphold the appeal or to deny the appeal, and a second, and then we can have discussion on that motion and vote.
Mike Grinnell, motion to deny the appeal.
Okay, is there a second?
Rob Fisher, a second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Any discussion of the board members?
I'd just make a quick point. There's two things that this case has. One is easy and one is hard. Our part is the easy part, whether or not violations exist, and it's clear that they do. There was existing violations, there's new violations. So that makes our part very simple. The second part is the more complicated one, which isn't for this board. It's basically the contractual issues of, what Mr. Young owes to the homeowner, because there are a lot of things that need to be remedied. That's small claims. That's, a whole other lawsuit potential right there of lawyers and fun stuff like that. But that's not for us. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion by the board members? Amato? Anything?
The motion is for all violations, correct?
The motion is to deny the appeal.
But and the appeal includes all the violations listed, the 6 violations that are listed. That's what we're voting to deny.
Well, if we read the appeal, I can make that leap. If we read the handwritten appeal that we have, it first states by the contractor who's making the appeal that they weren't aware they needed a permit. And then it goes into how the deck boards were fastened. A lot of what Mr. Young has provided. Mm-hmm. He believes that, being responsible for the flashing. So it is, I guess, yes, it's not agreeing with the 6 points that the county has made.
Let me follow up on what Michael has said, is that the task here was to replace the boards, and they were wood boards replaced with Trex. Trex has different properties than wood. Therefore, any of the necessary adjustments that had to be made in order to accommodate a Trex product and any fastening methodology that Trex recommends or requires based on their website would have been part of that charge. However, assuming there was an existing permit, whether it was inspected or not, assuming there was an existing permit, the assumption then would be that what was there structurally should have been, was approved previously. Okay?
Yeah.
And based on the code that is not the new construction code, but the remodel code of Virginia, you don't have to, it is not required to fix a previously approved condition unless you specifically address it. That's not part and parcel of the of the requirement, at least based on my understanding of what the code says.
But Amato, was it previously approved? It was never closed out.
Well,
The other thing on that Amato is you're talking about you're going from a wood product to a Trex product, and the Trex product says you can't put it on a 20-inch spacing.
no. What I'm saying is specifically that requirement you have to comply with, because Trex says you can't go 20 inches, so you can't install it that way. There's no question there at all. The issue that I'm raising is the existing ledger attachment to the house. Okay, that was installed per 1996, or at someone at that point. Now, what if it wasn't inspected? There's a flaw there, but I don't know that that's on the installer to validate that the permit wasn't installed, that the permit wasn't followed up on. I mean, I don't have that answer, but.
And Amato, I think what you're talking to though.
Somebody can please mute yourself unless you want to talk.
I was going to say, Amato, is what you're looking at is possibly a separate issue. We're not really here to decide who's at fault necessarily, as much as if there's a violation, which there clearly is. Like, this is going to end up going back. Like, a large part of this will be what the contract said. And we're not privy to that, nor do we need to be. But if it just says replace deck boards, it's one thing. But, you know, there's been talk of the contract included structural renovation underneath and all sorts of other, you know, pieces and parts. So that's its own issue that is not for us. But it's very clear that violations do exist. And it's a kind of a successive failure. First, there was the initial inspection in the 90s that didn't happen. There would have been a home inspection that should have caught this. And then there would have been initial kind of pre-construction inspection that would have said, oh, well, that's 20 inches. We've got more work to do. So there's 3 failures that got us to this point. So it's one of those where everybody's a little bit guilty at some point.
And this is Darren Shoemate. And in fairness to Mr. Young, you know, he was called by the clients, and the task and the contract that he signed is, and again, we're not privy to it, like Michael said. But you know, it's pretty clear that it was for a redecking and not a reconstruction of the entire deck. That he goes in with an assumption that everything is fine, and he might have even said that in his contract that everything's fine. And then in deference to the owners, you know, their expectation in hiring a professional contractor, licensed contractor who does this for a day job would say, hey, by the way, the span is too long. We need to add a sleeper here. We need to add another reinforcement here, and then he would have a legitimate, you know, modification to his contract. So, like Michael said before, we're not here to argue the contractual stuff and those issues. That's an issue for small claims, and it's apparent that the owners already have reached out to the Attorney General. You know, ours is what's in front of us is if there are code violations that have been noted. And that I think are fixable, as the county has stated. You know, I think there is a remedy that that's really the issue at hand, and that's this has been a very interesting case this morning.
Amato, in deference to what I hear you saying, one and it seems to revolve around violation 6 with this flashing that, you know, should have in theory been done way a long time ago. I guess you could propose an amendment to the motion on the floor, which would be to deny the appeal with respect to violations 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which would then exclude 6. In other words, it's basically saying to the county, yes, we've denied the appeal with respect to those 5 violations, but by their omission, the omission of number 6, it's saying, you know, we in theory, you know, don't agree with that. But that's your call, Amato. If I'm just trying to, you know, hear what you were saying. And
well, just as a follow up to that, I'm not sure if we want to complicate, you know, this by parsing. I
understand.
Because then I think, you know, I just think that would complicate what we're trying to do here.
I understand. Any other board members have any input or anything else?
Yeah, no, Amato,
Yes.
I put a grandfathering things in because, the code has changed, but we're not grandfathering anything on this deck because we don't even know if it met the code back then. Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a gotcha that I think almost every new homeowner probably has to worry about, but that's it.
Any other discussion by board members? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. And the motion and the second is to deny the appeal. Amato, yes or no?
Yes.
George Page?
Yes, yes to the motion.
Yes. Rob Fisher?
Yes.
Mike Grinnell?
Yes.
Darren Shoemate?
Yes.
Okay. And the chairman is not voting. So the record will show that the appeal is denied with a vote of 4-0, chairman not voting. That concludes the hearing, and there will be a written write-up of the resolution that will, I'll work with the county staff and we'll get to folks in a timely manner. I appreciate very much everybody's time and attention to this.
A quick note, David, you said 4-0. It's actually 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I, I think I say one number and then my wife says, no, you didn't say that. You said this. And I know I didn't. Yeah, I think it's old age. After you get on Medicare and stuff, I think something happens. 5-0, chairman not voting. Thank you. Okay, with that, the hearing's concluded, and thank everybody for their attention. And does the county have anything else, Richard, Grace, anything else you need to say?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for your service and all of the members of the board.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Goodbye.